Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I have decided to cover the latest update in Game of Thrones Kingsroad with you all for the first time. This update brings the next region to the game that I think many have been excited for, which is the Stormlands. A seldom explored region in much of the Game of Thrones media, this choice as the new region for the global launch has massive potential if pulled off correctly. On the other hand, it could generate extreme disappointment if done poorly. Along with explaining the most relevant patch notes for the latest update, I'll be giving my thoughts on the implementation as well for any who have been on the fence until this point about whether or not the game is worth playing. Before we get started, if you like my content, consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and ringing the bell icon to stay notified of new uploads. It would mean a lot and will help us reach our 1,000 subscriber target on the channel. I will also be linking the Steam announcement for this update in the description if you'd like to read along with me. With that out of the way, let's discuss the global launch update. In case you hadn't guessed it just yet, the biggest update we received is the addition of the Stormlands as a new region to explore. This includes new main story content, side quests, repeatable content such as ferocious beasts and bandit camps, as well as new items for increasing your momentum. Additionally, a lot of upgrades to aspects in the systems I consider freemium have been updated as well, such as new equipment that will require investment in the form of the energy system to fully acquire. On the other hand, the rates for receiving copper has been increased at least in most areas. I won't list all of these changes because it is uninteresting to me, and the pay-to-win parts of the game are something I can only really criticize. These don't add anything meaningful to the game, and only seek to force the players to make in-game purchases. I find this practice rather predatory, and it appears to have only been ramped up in even higher amounts as they prepare to bring in the mobile player base. While expected, this is extremely disappointing considering the developers made announcements claiming the game would be more accessible for free players, but this does not seem to be the case at this point. So with that out of the way, I should discuss the new content itself. First of all, although there are new side quests, these appear to be a massive step down from the ones in the North and Reach regions. To start with, each one is incredibly short, with considerably worse writing than the previous ones. While most of the previous region side quests were fetch quests already, these new ones are no more than going to a designated point. The previous ones at least felt like a story was being told, which is pretty much absent here. Now the only purpose they seem to serve is for experience, which free players in particular will need to be able to complete this region, as it requires around 80k momentum for the first section of the main quest, but I'll get to this more later. In short, I can't express enough my disappointment on these side quests. They are incredibly sparse, and the few that are there are simply not fun and feel like a waste of time. A 3 out of 10 rating feels like a generous rating here. But what about the main quest? I can't speak on this too much since I won't be playing through it before the Let's Play videos I will be doing over the next several weeks. Instead, I will briefly go over what we can glean from the previews, and for briefly exploring on my assassin character while doing research for this video. The story appears to be in large part a complete rehash of the one from the Reach. Instead of mind control poisoning, we will now have a plague. Instead of a Maester conspiracy, we now have the religious cult of R'hllor. This is probably vastly simplifying the plot, and I do trust the writing team to do better than the side quest since it is the main attraction. Overall, it just doesn't feel like this is a story that needed to be told right now, with so much more interesting things in the world we could potentially have explored. I won't give any exact rating on this until I finish the main quest though. Finally, I will quickly go over the new region itself. My overall impression is that it feels much emptier outside of the quest areas. There are a few side quests as well, and they aren't spread out very well, so there are huge chunks of areas with nothing but an empty space. The only exception is repeatable content, which also is not very well spread out. The end result is a world that often feels completely dead, even compared to the North, which you would expect to be in a much worse state. Of course, the developers could be planning to expand this soon, but right now it is visually pleasing, but functionally a void. This aspect I give another 3 out of 10. I could even drop this rating further because the Stormlands compared to the Reach is not a relatively huge region, and should not feel so empty compared to the region we just arrived from. The aesthetics here are incredible, however, giving a very dark feel. I think this is probably my favorite region yet, as far as the vibe it gives. Unfortunately, that vibe is short-lived, since there is just nothing of substance here really to immerse yourself in and enjoy the bleakness. Even as a fan of the North, I cannot get over the massive potential for this area. One defense I could give is that I was unable to reach an area in the southeast-most portion of the Stormlands, which I believe is meant to be the Griffin's Roost area. This area would best be known as the seat of House Connington, with the most famous member being Jon Connington, one of the hands to the Mad King. I tried to reach this area on foot every way that I could think of, but there is a bridge leading to it that has been cut. I'm assuming this means it will only be unlocked at a certain point of the main quest. If this area is done well, it could vastly improve my opinion of the update. As it stands, I can only review what I've seen so far, and it is not looking great. Storm's End is a highlight, bringing a very different feel compared to other castles we've seen so far. Overall, because of the visual element, I'd have to give the region itself a 4 or 5 out of 10. It just doesn't make very good use of its space, but overall it's great to be able to experience what is there so far. It just needs more compelling content to push it higher. Aside from these changes, there were a number of balance changes as well, so let's quickly go through them. Health will now slowly regenerate out of combat until full, whereas previously it would only do so up to 40% of your health. The rate health regenerates at has also been decreased from every 3 seconds to every 1.2 seconds. Healing Tincture's effectiveness has been increased from 35% to 40% of health. Quick dodging now consumes 1 dodge charge instead of 2. Dodge charges also recover every 5 seconds instead of every 7.5 seconds. The default carry amount of healing tinctures and projectiles has been increased from 4 to 6. Collecting healing tinctures from chests in the world now heals you. Sellsword Destruction effect has been buffed. Assassin Poison effect has been debuffed, while the Blood Burst effect has been buffed. In the trait tree, Ferocious Strike was debuffed, while Heat of the Battlefield and Endless Battle were buffed. Various potions were debuffed, but their effect times drastically increased. You can now use the Pathfinding feature on PC. You must be on a horse with a waypoint set to use it. Press the auto move hotkey when you've done this, which is G by default, to be brought to your destination. More areas, such as Castle Black and Last Hearth, are now multiplayer spaces. Only the highest ranking class for each account are displayed on the level and momentum rankings. New signposts have been added in all regions, and some existing signpost locations were adjusted. You can now toggle a gameplay setting that will display your set routes visually in the game world. Difficulty for the early game and some main quest bosses have been reduced. That's about all there is to cover in this update. As you can probably guess by now, this update is not one that makes me want to recommend the game more. It offers bare minimum for rewards to those not spending on large amounts of microtransactions, and is now doing the same with basic game content. Assuming the new region main quest is about as long as the one from the Reach, there might be 10 hours of new content added for a player who isn't able to push their momentum up to fight bosses quickly. The side quests can also be knocked out in a half hour or less, as there is 6 in total compared to 15 in the Reach and 28 in the North. This is a bad sign, since it could mean the planned content for each new region added will diminish. Overall, with the additional balance changes, I would probably give the whole update a 5 or 5.5 out of 10. What it brings to the table feels largely for looks, and to give the appearance of adding content, but the content it really gives is lacking in every area so far. I will give them props for the looks of the region, and for finally making it easier for new players to collect copper, as well as limiting random chance of rewards from the RP system. I can only hope that the region isn't considered in a finished state, and that we will at least be able to get some more side content to enjoy soon. Based on the lack of any updates to the Reach area after it was first debuted, I doubt that will happen, but we can hope. On that note, I will continue the main quest in future videos, and hopefully the narrative can salvage the region. If not, I may have to consider abandoning making future content for the game on the channel. For anyone new to the game, the global launch is officially here, so you can check it out now for yourself instead of listening to me yap about it. I'll leave a link in the description for the Steam page, but it is also available on Android and iOS. Either way, that's going to be it for me in this video. Before I go, I would like to ask you for your opinions on the updates in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you whether you think I've been too harsh with the Stormlands release, or I found it as underwhelming as I have. So as always, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh, and I highly suggest turning up your brightness while you adjust to this new area. I found myself stuck for almost an hour in the new hideout because the ladder I needed was in a dark corner. It does actually have a really fun level design though, so check it out.